Welcome to our fourth John study. In our last two studies together, we looked at the two ordinances of the Protestant faith and the two that we observe in the E-Free Church: baptism and communion. For baptism, we talked about our death with Christ and rising to new life with him. And for communion, we talked about our pairing with him or abiding in Jesus. This week, we are going to be looking at chapters 7 and 8, and we are going to be talking about Jesus as the light. A literary feature I want us to look at in our next 4 sessions together is the absolute statements of Jesus. What these absolute statements are the I am statements that Jesus gives to explain who he is through an illustration that help us understand his divinity as being fully man and fully God. To help us understand these, I first want to lay out the 7 I am statements that Jesus gives. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the door of the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the true vine. In Article 4 of our Statement of Faith book, the authors use these I am statements to claim Jesus as God incarnate. And through explaining them, they say when Jesus says, I am the bread of life, he is talking about how he meets the spiritual hunger that we have. And so using this same sort of framework, we can make sense of each of these I am statements. So our next I am statement for this study, I am the light of the world. Jesus brings illumination. So with this understanding of the I am statements, we can see how John is using some super practical illustrations to explain how Jesus is God, and also how we can understand that. And so with that in mind, we come to our second one in John chapter 8, verse 12. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. After this passage, Jesus gets into another dialogue with the Pharisees. And if we've learned anything from the past dialogues, is that the people seem to misunderstand Jesus when Jesus is talking spiritual about something. And so in this conversation, the same thing happens. But it gets to that main point where Jesus explains himself. And this is what he says, starting in verse 31. So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. They answered him, we are offspring of Abraham and have never been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free? Jesus answered them, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever. The Son remains forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. There's 2 things I want to point out in this passage, and the first is the word abide. You may have noticed in our last study together that Jesus said, whoever drinks my blood abides in me. Now, this word abide is very important for John, and I want to put a pin in this for now. But John is saying something about discipleship when he says that we abide in Jesus by drinking his blood and by reading his word. The second point is when Jesus says, when you are in the Son, you are free indeed. You may have noticed that in our church, we have Be Free Kids and Be Free Youth. And so I thought it would be interesting for us to hear from Josiah his vision of why he would use John 8, verse 36 as his vision. So what was your inspiration for choosing John chapter 8, verse 36 for Be Free Kids and Youth?
Well, I feel like originally it was probably I've been drawn to the passage because uh, just my own personal walk with the
Mm.
Lord, finding freedom in a lot of areas. Um, yeah, the verse, if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And I feel like it's been a long journey for me of truly finding what
Mm.
that means in my own life. And I know in the passage, the context is Jesus kind of confronting the Pharisees and how they're essentially following in the footsteps of the father of lies and living out lies and um, essentially, which is enslaving them in sin. And I think there's a lot of lies that I've struggled with over the years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's enslaved me in different ways. And really having Jesus illuminate those for me and free me has really been the starting point. And then and then one of our youth leaders, we started our Instagram page like years ago, and he kind of used the term "be free youth" on it, and I was like, it just kind of clicked. I was like, oh,
Mm.
that works because it fits, Brooks Evangelical Free
Yeah.
Church, but it also fit my like deep desire for not only myself but for our youth to find freedom in Christ. And so it just, I feel like it kind of like was a light bulb moment for me.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
and and like there's so many things that I feel like it fits. Like I just know when I was a teenager, there were so many insecurities I was dealing with, and I just feel like I wasn't truly free, and I didn't fully,
Yeah.
the gospel and Christ hadn't fully set me free in so many areas that I was battling with. And so my desire for our youth is that they will find ultimately freedom in Christ, but freedom from their sin, freedom from lies they're battling daily. There's so many lies that they're faced with, and free to really just be themselves and who Christ has made them to be. And I feel like the more they know Christ, the more they can become who
Hmm.
Christ has made them to be. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of
Hmm.
part of the
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So,
awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah.
That's great. I certainly relate to Josiah in the freedom that he has found in Jesus and the things that Jesus has freed me from as well. I also loved how Josiah pointed out the greater context of that passage. There's this misunderstanding of what freedom is. The Pharisees didn't think they were enslaved at all. And so I think it's an important question to ask, what is freedom according to Jesus? What does he free us from? And what does he free us to do? As a group, I want you to talk about the freedom that we have in Jesus.
Who the Son sets free.